So Ben, my question to you is, so immigration has been all about inclusion. It's a huge bill. Everybody's fighting to get their issue covered by it. You represent two communities who represent some pieces of the bill. So what is this debate on inclusion, and how is the issue seen from the LGBT community and from the Filipino American community?
Thanks, Karen. I wanted to thank the organizers for this event, for putting it on. It's a really important conversation and a really important time to be having the conversation. The National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance has been doing LGBT immigration forums around the country, and I think a lot of the stories that we're hearing from the road have direct bearing on what we're talking about back here in Washington. I think that a lot of the communities that are working on this issue are trying to see themselves in it, right? Like, where's my bill? Where's the issue that is affecting my community? And I think I'm looking at it from two very unique and two, in some ways, opposite perspectives. On one hand, the work that I've done around Filipino World War II veterans has been able to leverage the goodwill that these soldiers who fought bravely in World War II for this country have been able to generate here in Washington. And so Senator AAPIA was able to introduce the Filipino World War II Veterans Family Reunification Bill. It's a bill that will allow Filipino veterans to, who are eligible to petition their adult children to this country in a more expedited way, because, as many of us know, the backlogs, particularly for Filipinos, are the longest in the world, right? So for Filipinos, for certain categories, you have to wait about 23 years. And so these folks are 80 and 90, and so this bill was kind of concocted as a way to give them some support in their twilight years. It's a very uncontroversial bill. It's one of the few pieces of immigration legislation that actually had a vote in the House. Was it the House? In the last Congress? Was it in the Senate? Oh, it was in the Senate, right? In the last Congress, we got a lot of bipartisan support. And so it's a very small piece that we are continually told will be in whatever bill gets introduced, because we just fly underneath the radar. But it allows us to talk to our communities about this. I was just talking to one of the Filipino media and telling them, this is the one piece of legislation that we're in now. Like, it says Filipino in the U.S., on Capitol Hill, and so we all have to pay attention, because sometimes our communities are still not grappling with this issue correctly. They hear what's on the radio, they hear what's on the media, and they buy into the way in which it gets framed in the mainstream media, right? That it doesn't affect us, that it's a Latino issue, that it's about legalization, and really, when we all know that it's a comprehensive fix that's required, and all of the pieces have to move jointly. But it does allow us to talk to our communities about it. I contrast this with the ways in which the LGBT community has engaged this issue, and the way in which we find ourselves in that bill has been through the very narrowly defined Uniting American Families Act, which is certainly a very important bill, and at the same time does not capture the entire reality that LGBT folks face in working on the immigration system. So, the Uniting American Families Act, which would allow binational couples to sponsor each other in the same way that straight couples do, is just one way in which our families are affected by immigration. So you have a situation where there are about 36,000 binational couples who would be affected by this legislation, but you've got, out of the 1.2 million undocumented, if you think about 5% of them maybe who might be LGBT, you can do the math and think that it will have that piece of legislation will also have a tremendous impact on our communities. But the way in which the gay community has kind of looked at it has only been through the lens of the Uniting American Families Act. And what we're trying to do is to expand the conversation. And at the end of the day, it's not about having an analysis of LGBT issues in comprehensive immigration reform. It's really about having an LGBT analysis of comprehensive immigration reform. So I think that allows us to kind of do the coalition politics that we need to do in our communities to bring everyone along to all of the pieces. Because at the end of the day, it's not the right thing to do. It's not just the right thing to do. It's also the smart thing to do. So I'm looking forward to moving this conversation forward with all of you.
So since this is a YouTube event, you want to give one of your websites?
Oh, yes. So I think I'll give two. So the National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance's website is www.AAJC, NQAPIA.org. And Kaya's is www.kayagrassroots.org, KAYAGRASSROOTS. Did I get that right? So, thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Ben.